Now I am going to speak on, as the chairman told, GDM is the mother of non-communicable disease because everything starts from mother. So in recent atrocities it has shown that the prevalence of diabetes, it's 151 million in 2000, is going to become 425 million in 2017. It has already crossed that level. So it is going to go further. Is there hope to reverse this trend? Whom should we focus? That is my topic today. That is why I told GDM is the mother of non-communicable diseases. First, I will discuss here Barker's hypothesis. He said many years ago, beautiful statement he made. He conceptualized that the body's susceptibility to lifestyle diseases was programmed intrauterine. So he states everything starts from there, and development of health and disease, it's a phenotype of everybody, depends on genetics and as well also on the intrauterine environment and as well as postnatal environment. This is called epigenetic. That means a disease a person could have depends on both phenotype and as well as genotype. And then genetic loads the gun and environment triggers it off. Now what is the environment? This is where it starts. In this environment, intrauterine programming here, gestational programming is a process whereby stimuli, hyperglycemia, or stresses that occur at critical sensitive period of fetal development permanently change structure, physiology, and metabolism, which predispose individuals to these adults. That's all. Once anything happens intrauterine, it can never be changed. That is what we call fetal origin of adult disease. That is my first introduction. Now I proved it. Where this starts. The next step will be here. What is hyperglycemia here? What do you mean there? Hyperglycemic pregnancy is GDM is defined as any degree of glucose tolerance with onset or first recognition during pregnancy. And then what is the concern? What you are worried about here? GDM represents detection of chronic beta cell function. Already she declares that I am going to have diabetes in future. So GDM is a stage in the evolution of type 2 diabetes. That is why we are worried about pregnancy and diabetes here. Then what are the implications? It is interesting, women with GDM are at increased risk of future diabetes, predominant type 2, as are their children. That is what we call transgeneration of transmission occurs. So I told about the Frank hypothesis. Now you can talk about Frankel hypothesis. Here he made a very nice statement, mixed nutrients. Norbert Frankel, he says, influence of maternal fuels during pregnancy, fuel-mediated teratogenesis as the base for the long-range anatomic and functional changes in the fetus. So we were thinking, of course, glucose is very important, but is concepted beyond glucose, other nutrients also could have a role to play in the fetus developing complications. Now we will come in here, modified Frankel's and Pedersen hypothesis, the effect of maternal fuels on offspring development. Here there is a mixed nutrient, plasma glucose, amino acids and lipids in diabetic women. And then cross the placenta, in the fetus, insulin level goes up because of the nutrients. And then child becomes macrosomic, the fetus becomes macrosomic. When child is born, you're not born, they make hypoglycemia because there's no more fuel available there. That is other common occur. But what we are interested in the adult life, these people who have gone through the mill, male obesity will be one of the cause, then IGT and followed by diabetes. And if you go to a female child, this is a problem here. Female child, again she may become obese and the adult life, see GDM and ultimately diabetes. So you will see the circle. For pregnant diabetic goes on to diabetes and from diabetes to pregnant diabetic. So this vicious cycle continues because once it starts from here, then what is somewhere must break the cycle. You will see what you can do for this. And if she happens to be a GDM, what could have maternal glycemia and childhood glucose metabolism across the maternal glucose spectrum. Exposure to higher levels in utero is significantly associated with childhood glucose insulin resistance, independent of maternal childhood, BMI, and family history of diabetes. Now, not only child is affected, in adolescent period, in this period also, if mother had a GDM, offspring of woman GDM shows increased adiposity and adverse cardiometabolic profile and early onset of puberty among the girls. And then increased fasting glucose and HOMO-IR levels among the offspring of mothers with GDM may be explained by the programming effect of the anemia and glycemia and pregnancy. So puberty in adolescent offspring of one GDM, a clinical study of this study shows this problem. Now we will change childhood, adolescence. Now what could be the adults? Adult offspring could be here. A woman who had GDM, now she may be having chronic insulin resistance, beta cell failure, dyslipidemia, inflammation, endothelial dysfunction. And this leads on to type 2 diabetes and then cardiovascular diseases and metabolic syndrome. So we'll appreciate now from where it starts. All these things go transmitted to the adult life. So GDM, an opportunity to prevent type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular in young women. Now look at what is maternal nutrition can play a role here. The goal of nutrition of pregnancy is to support maternal, placental and fetal metabolic needs, and it may be the first introduction to a lifetime of healthy eating. So now here, I think that Yagnik is going to come here. He is an authority in this topic. Potential pathways explaining the relationship between the under and over maternal nutrition. If it's going to over maternal nutrition, reduced birth weight, increased appetite in the early postnatal catch-up growth, postnatal life, then rapid postnatal growth, altered leptin synthesis, secretion, increased visceral adiposity, peripheral resistance, and type diabetes. That's how child born and small for gestation can develop diabetes. If mother has going to be overnutrition, increased food intake and decreased food expenditure, then this is neuroendocrine, pancreatic, skeletal, muscle, and adipose tissue dysfunction. So these are the common pathway: adipose dysfunction, increased adiposity, insulin resistance, finally type diabetes. So both undernutrited mother and overnutrited mother both can lead to a child can become a diabetic. So but now we will see about how is this happening. Maternal and fetal exposure to under and overnutrition. This is called methylation. Nutritional factors will be here: methyl group supply, changes in methylation activity, impaired DNA demethylation process. This is what we don't know. Both can operate. In poor undernutrited mother also can produce hypomethylation, whereas overnutrition can produce the hypermethylation. Both can give rise to problem in the child. What could happen in the offspring here? Consequence of organ physiology. So it doesn't spare any organ in the fetus when it become adulthood also. Adiposity first, altered insulin signaling, increased inflammation in the offspring, and then offspring can develop also brainstem problem here, oxidative stress in the medulla, all these things can occur, and goes to heart, cardiac and endothelial dysfunction, oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction, and here you will see in the lungs, increased lung respiratory frequency and pulmonary ventilation, increased sensitivity to respiratory chemoreceptors, kidney, and then liver, and then muscle. You will see from this, no organ is spared when mother has got whether undernutrition or overnutrition. And then not only that, finally it leads to elevated risk for sympathetic overactivity, oxidative stress, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, dyslipidemia, overweight. So all things from a mother, because the nutrition effect will produce an effect on the children. So these children, when they become adulthood, again they will transmit to their own children. That is the problem of GDM. Now summing up here, so far, GDM may play a crucial role in the increasing prevalence of diabetes and obesity, and also as well as again origin of cardiometabolic diseases. So look at a little bit of epidemiology, pregnancy here. Surprisingly, we don't know why it's occurred. All the poor countries, Southeast Asian countries, you will see almost 30% of pregnant women develop GDM, 26.6% compared to other developed countries. And this is very important for us, being in the South Asian countries. Again, 1 in 6 live birth occurs in women with some form of hyperglycemia. 60% of them are due to GDM. So, having understood that, what we need is universal testing. Universal testing is population, the higher prevalence of diabetes, Indian women have 11-fold increased risk. Unfortunately, it is like that. Developing glucose intolerance during pregnancy compared to Caucasian women. Among ethnic groups in South Asian countries, again, it proved Indian women have the highest frequency of GDM. So that means we need all women should be screened for GDM, even if they have no symptoms. So that is the message from this so far. Now, I will let you discover about the most discussed this topic, International Association of Diabetes Pregnancy Study Group, IADPHG. These people said guidelines are based hyperglycemia and adverse pregnancy study group, which included only Caucasian population. That is the crux of the problem. They have done everything in Caucasian population are entirely different from ethnic Indians or Asians. How are you going to follow that problem? As the chairman introduced, it's very, very difficult because population is entirely different. And then another thing, WHO itself says in lukewarm endorsement, there are no other way. Endorsed IDEC criteria described the quality of evidence for its recommendation as very low and the strength of its recommendation as weak. The most important, I am going to share with you, which is probably very latest information. Boyd Mercer is like somebody's probably father. He is the big father in the world, American father. Boyd Mercer. He himself now accepts, realizes now, recently commented that even at centers that accepted the IADPG recommendation, the approach varies. The problem is and needs revision for standardization or the strategy for diagnosing GDM. He himself comes out and tells, now this is now difficult to follow up other countries. Now, what are practical problems in diagnosing GDM? Here we'll see all the diagnostic criteria women that to be fasting. But most of the time, pregnant women do not come in the fasting state because of the commutation belief not to fast for long hours. That is field experience, not only hours, even WHO says. Then, when I ask them to come again, the dropout rate is very high when a pregnant woman is asked to come again for the test. And lastly, attending the first prenatal visit in the fasting state is impractical even in many countries, including IADPG countries. And then, finally, a fasting blood test in the antenatal booking is often inconvenient even in the UK. So that has so much of problem we have got in the screening for GDM. So another thing also, what observation is made by WHO is there is no high quality evidence that women and their fetuses benefit from treatment if only the fasting value is abnormal. It may be good in some other countries but not in South Asian countries. And then as it shows benefit of treating GDM women identified primarily by post-load values. That is why it's interesting on the post-glucose values here. A prospective study, we are proving it also. A prospective study was undertaken to elucidate a test procedure irrespective of the fasting last meal timing to diagnose GDM. In this study, what was conclusion was a 2-hour PG more than 140 milligram with 70 gram oral glucose administered the pregnant woman in the fasting and non-fasting state without regard to the time of the last meal is able to identify women with GDM. Now, a single step procedure is diagnosed to diagnose diabetes mellitus. That is what we concluded from the Indian study. Now, this not Indian first, somebody has done also earlier. Petit Tatal is a very popular man in States. He said non-fasting 2-hour PG is good, long-term effects on offspring. So somebody has published this data earlier also. Now, advantage of this will be here. Pregnant women need not be fasting. Cause least disturbance in the pregnant woman's routine activities, serves as both screening and diagnostic procedure. Testing is possible. Why 2-hour PG glucose? It is interesting again here. Why 2-hour plasma glucose 140? You will see here a woman whose blood sugar 2-hour was more than less than 119. Still, a child 8% of them become diabetic. If her blood sugar was during pregnancy 120 to 139, that is called gestational glucose tolerance, the chance her children become diabetes is 20%. If it's going to be 140 and above, 30%. That is why we said 140 has got reasonable guidelines to prove, to diagnose GDM because the chance of our children becoming diabetes is very high. Now, one more point here, if we take IGT, cutoff point is 140, normal adult. In that 40% of beta cell function is lost. Not that totally beta cell lost, that function is lost. So when that is going to be accepted, this, ladies and gentlemen, if in the non-pregnant state, 2-hour PG more than 140 milligram, is considered as abnormal, then why can't it be considered abnormal during pregnancy? So it's a very question. The question has to be answered. Then, summing up so far, diagnosed GDM with 2 PG, more 140 milligram, and treatment is worthwhile with the decreased macrosomia rate, fewer emergency sections, serious morbidity, and may also improve the woman's health, related quality of life. Now, when to screen? The question number, all the textbook will say 24th to 28th week. Now, we have to change our mind because it can occur early screening for glucose tolerance and care could avoid some diabetic-related complications such as hydramnios, fetal anomalies, and preterm birth in women with GDM. So, it is but early weeks. Now, what is the proof? This study was done quite a few, about 2007. In that, we found about 16% had diagnosed in first trimester, and then about 22% second trimester. That means 38% were diagnosed before 24th week. Of course, in this group, 6 had pre-GDM. So, by checking the glucose level in the early weeks of pregnancy, you will have much more advantage in your clinical practice. Now, we again wanted to follow further after 10 years. This study shows here manifestation of GDM in the early weeks of pregnancy. In this group, we had a huge population, 11,000 and all group. In that, the first trimester will be 31%. And then the second trimester, look at the bottom, 42%, and third trimester, 25%. So, the most important point in this particular slide is that in 2007, it was 16%. When it is going to be 2016, it is 31%. That shows in a decade time, it is doubled. The prevalence of GDM in the first trimester has increased double in the 10 years. So, the study shows it is very important. That's why I wrote need for testing for glucose tolerance in the early pregnancy is very, very important. Now, conclusion from this study was, we may not miss any GDM by screening around 24th week, but a substantial number of pregnant women who develop GDM the earlier weeks of pregnancy are likely to have a delayed diagnosis and may not receive appropriate medical care. So, now final talk, my final message here, heart of the matter, that's what I feel about that. GDM is an important problem at all levels of economic development, but immediate and pragmatic consideration may limit the resources devoted to this issue in developing countries. So, fortunately, Government of India National Health Guidelines, they were published 4 years ago. Now, again, issued in February 2018. They show this. I think most of you knowing about that. The same single procedure, Minister of Health, Government of India has approved how to go about this test. It's only simple. Give 70 gram glucose load, irrespective of the meal timing, 2 or more than 140. Do it 140 milligram. Suppose women fast. Warmed occurs within 30 minutes of oral glucose take, the test has to be repeated the next day. If vomiting occurs after 30, the test can continue. The most important message is here, the government is permitted to use plasma glucose standard meter to use to diagnose it. Because going for the lab and giving blood test, waiting for the result is not possible in the field areas, rural areas or in semi-urban areas. So friends, here community needs a simple and economical test. Then again we validated in the Tamil Nadu here, it was published in the BMC pregnancy. What we found was that the studies test the importance of guideline and diagnostic criteria which are simple and feasible on the ground. So coming back to our own, a simpler solution here will be, this was published long ago by Boyd himself. He knew, he anticipated, he said in future clinical practice, simpler and more cost-effective strategies that do not require performing OGT on most pregnant women may be developed. In 2010 he told. Now it is coming true. He is the same person who gave guidelines of IDPG. Now a single procedure which with a single glucose value to diagnose GDM is rational, cost-effective and causes least negligible inconvenience to the expectant mother. That is, we must be happy to say it is a Make in India guidelines. And of course, now this has been approved by World Health Organization, FIGO, and as well as IDEC. Friends, we should not let the best come in the way of the good. And there was a wonderful statement made by McIntyre. He said, one size does not fit all. Where possible, diagnostic threshold should be adapted using local data. I am not against the IDPG. IDPG is very good for Americans, Caucasians, but not for other ethnic groups. So they can't force us to do that. Neither we can force on. That's why I said one size does not fit all. Everybody can do whatever, depending on the local availability. The target blood sugar level is very important here. There's some confusion going on in the country, but this is the best. 80 to 90 milligrams should be your fasting, and the postprandial should be 110 by 120, and then mean should be 105. Why 110? Because renal threshold of fetus is 110 milligrams. So it is better not to exceed mother's blood sugar more than 110. That is why I put 110 as a postprandial blood sugar level here. The goal is to obtain newborn birth weight appropriate for gestational weeks. That is 2.5 to 3.5. Why? It's because this is a step prevent offspring developing DM. There is only way you can prevent diabetes will be see that mother's blood sugar is normal, so that a child don't become overweight. And then impact of this is practically possible because which we have done it here. We have in this project National Health Survey was says SGA was 70%. By our intervention, we brought it by 40 to 41%. Similarly, LGA was 19%. Again, by intervention, we brought it by 63%. So what I want to say is the single initiative of achieving birth weight of infant appropriate gestational age would have significant positive effect on the overall health of the family and the community. Conclusion. Prevention of NCD, preventive measures against NCD should be start during intrauterine period and continue throughout life from childhood. GDM offers an important opportunity for the development of testing and implementation of clinical studies for NCD prevention. And here I would like to sum up here, female gender, the key to diabetes NCD prevention. It starts with the healthy pregnancy, low birth weight, large birth should be avoided because it produces in adult life elevated risk factor the obesity, diabetes, and hypertension, CVD, and then again as suggested, intergenital transmission occurs. So maternal health, the link to the NCD epidemic. So it's possible by allowing the woman to go on walking and exercise diet plan, and also pregnant women who participate in this program are able to avoid GDM. And finally, step 2, this very important slide, prevent GDM to DDM will be, and offspring from developing DDM will be, lactation is very important, may lower the diabetes risk of the mother becoming diabetes. And again, breastfeeding for the first 6 months protect the offspring of developing type 2 diabetes. So, friends, I am coming to conclusion, positive observations. What I made here, 1, GDM is preventable, small for gestation and large are preventable, offsprings, so obesity is preventable, GDM to diabetes is preventable. So all are preventable. Only thing is we need mind setup to do this test and carry on them. And then here what you should do, what is needed. Yes, the timely action taken now in screening all pregnant women for glucose tolerance, achieving equilibrium in them, and most importantly ensuring adequate nutrition, maternal nutrition, and finally may prevent all probability the epidemic of diabetes. Now friends, I will leave with you with this message here that prevention of GDM becoming mother non-common diseases is a possible reality. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you very much.